Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to podcast episode 3 for Pause Alchemy of Women. This one is called The Thoughts in Your Head, What's Yours and What Isn't. I'm a little tired today because today is Independence Day in Peru. And I'm actually recording this at 6 o'clock in the morning. So you might also hear my dogs barking because they hate fireworks. I'm coming to you today from my apothecary, so my herbal laboratory. If you can see all of my plants. So today, please share, like, comment this video. I just started an Instagram, Pause Alchemy of Women. I have a Facebook group of the same name. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm going to put the link below in the comments, and all of those or any of those would really help me get started on this exciting journey of podcasting. And also, I'm starting an email. It will not be a lot of emails, trust me. Maximum for a month, probably more like one to start. So it'll be filled with exciting news about programs and filled with freebies. So DM me your email if you would like to be a part of that. I would love to share some things with you. And like I said, it'll probably be once a month, maybe twice. So this topic of what's mine and what's from the other is something that I've really been working on lately to kind of figure out. So we have all these thoughts swimming around in our heads, and sometimes it's hard to distinguish if we're thinking that or if that comes from outside. Because the thoughts are inside your head, you're thinking them, but sometimes they feel a little foreign. And so wondering how to separate those. And for me, how to know what's coming from the inside is that often it has a weird feeling to it. It has maybe a more anxious feeling, or maybe it feels like something I should do, which is not a word I enjoy. Maybe it has some guilt or shame attached to it. Maybe you feel it somewhere in your body, like you're having a thought and you have an icky feeling in your body of some kind. And for me, my inner knowing, this intuition, it feels a little confused. So that's kind of how I know that something is a little off. And, I'll be hearing these words in my head and thinking, but I don't even agree with that. Why am I so worried about that? And this can come from anywhere, right? Anywhere outside. So maybe your parents, maybe coworkers or friends. And then there's these societal expectations. So these are where the shoulds really come in for me. So shoulds about your body, what your body should look like. Should you be skinnier? Are you too skinny? Things about your sexuality, either who you like or how you express yourself, or maybe you're not doing it enough. Maybe you're doing it too much. Coming from outside, that you feel good about your choices, and maybe other people are kind of getting in there and not directly. So that's where the societal expectations is interesting, because you've heard these things maybe so much over your life that you don't even know they're not your thoughts, right? And so these could be about career and how you should work, and when you should work, and when you should get married or have children, or if you don't want children, or if you want a lot of children, getting a divorce, dating, who you date and how you date, and what you decide to do when you're older. Do you keep working? Do you retire? And then what do you do if you had kids and they're gone? And what do you do if you didn't have any kids? And do you do things that are age appropriate? Which is another very funny statement to me. And for me, this sort of thing usually creates shame. So I said last week, if you were watching, say guilt feels more like it's coming from the inside, whereas shame is often coming from outside. And I said last week that I don't like shame. I don't see the point in it. And then I talked to my friend Natalie a little more. And I'm in a program with her, and she does NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming, which is not easy to say. And one of the things they work on is shame, and we were talking about it, and I realized that shame actually does have a purpose. So what she says is that it's a catalyst to understand yourself, right? So for me, I took that to kind of go on this topic of like, when you're feeling shame from the outside, it's a great moment to be like, so I'm feeling this shame about something I'm doing, how I'm living my life. But it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like something I'm doing wrong. It feels like, I like, say for me, I always really wanted to travel, and I didn't want to settle down and have kids and settle down. So a funny thing to say, right? I wanted to travel. I wanted to see the world. I wanted to do different things. I wanted to be independent. And, sometimes I felt weird about that. I felt like I don't want a picket fence, and I don't want kids, and I don't want to work in an office where I didn't want to. And I felt bad about my decision sometimes at first. And then I realized, well, that is not in alignment with how I truly want to live my life. So how can it be bad? Just because in the United States, that's not as common as having, traveling around. Maybe now it's a little more common, but this is a while ago. So just noticing like where you're feeling any sort of pain points of shame, and realizing, is that really coming from me? Is that something that I value that I'm not doing? Or are there other people's values that are affecting me? So I think it's a really important. Sorry, I have my little paper here. Another issue is this. I posted this in my Facebook group a while ago. This feeling that we get as women, sometimes, of the need to be the good girl, right? Because when we're little girls, I'm sure this happens to boys too, but like I said, I'm not excluding the boys, except I am excluding the boys because this is technically a women's group now, open as a podcast if men want to listen. So I only talk about the women experience. And there's actually these are physical issues that wind up coming up when someone for their whole life needs to be the good girl. So when you're little girl, say, oh, that's such a good girl. You did this thing. You're a good girl. Don't do that. Good girls don't do that. I mean, I think parents and teachers don't mean that to be something bad. It's like, oh, stop doing the things I don't want to do, kid, and be a good girl. As a parent, and now that I'm older, I can understand, but it kind of has a damaging effect on us physically and emotionally, right? So you're always trying to be the good girl. You don't want to be bad. And that has a very shaming tone to it, actually. And I posted a meme, and there were a bunch of different physical effects, such as muscle tension. These are the things that that perhaps the good girl, if you resonate with this being a good girl persona, there's a lot of things that could go along with it. So muscle tension, the feeling that you're holding your breath, having digestive issues, anxiety, fatigue, having overlooked needs, not being able to express your opinions, and critical internal chatter. So that's what made me think of that for this topic, this internal chatter of like, ooh, is that okay to do? Is that not okay to do? A lot of these things might not even come from within us. Maybe it's from trying to be a good girl, to please whoever, and people pleasers, but that's a different topic, but it's involved in this, right? And for me, I feel like this is not our fault, right? So I really feel like it comes from outside, and this is not our fault. And it's hard to get out of. And so as a coach, I want to help women to free themselves of the shackles of societal pressures, constraints, and expectations. That's like my main goal. Also not always easy, but it is simple. And part of the reason why it's not easy, especially as we get older, I focus on women as we're growing older, really, even though that affects women at any age, this idea. Something I could want to call the Golden Girls complex, so if you are from the United States, you probably know who the Golden Girls are. If not, Google it. But this was a show in the 80s about three women who move into a retirement community in Florida and to like live out the rest of their like glory days, right? And they look older to me. They seem older than to me. They're wearing very age appropriate clothing, except for Blanche. She's the outlier. But I always associate these women with being like really old. I mean, I was a kid when it came out, but still they seemed, much older than say what my mom seems like to me now. And so I wanted to read their ages. So on the show, Rose, who's Betty White, was 55. Dorothy was 53. Sophia, Dorothy's mom, was 79. And Blanche she lies about her age, so somewhere between 47 and 53. And Rose and Dorothy are actually about 10 years older in real life. And Sophia is actually 62 in real life. And Blanche is about the age that she is on the show. But it's really interesting to me because if Blanche was 47, like I'm 46. So I'm most definitely not ready to move to a community and like get a golf cart and live in Florida waiting to die. I mean, that wouldn't even occur to me, and some of I remember there being an episode about how it was so scandalous because they were going on some cruise or something and they were trying to buy condoms, and then they announced it on the loudspeaker that these ladies were buying condoms, and it was like, oh my God, we're old. Is this okay? Should we be doing this? They were all single. And it's just interesting to me. And I think shows like that influenced me as a kid because, I loved that show. But I thought, well, those old ladies, and then I'm a year younger than Blanche. So I feel like media is really a big factor in our not knowing what's ours and what's others, because we're so influenced and there's such a pressure from Hollywood. First, I always used to think, well, it's a pressure on the stars to look young, which is bad enough on its own, but it actually, just like, supermodels and magazines and things like that affect us and affect our psyche and how we feel like we should be and how we're not measuring up. The actresses that are in Hollywood are really pressured to look young overall, and getting Botox and surgeries and having little lifts done here, and it's normalizing all of these things that are wanting to make us look younger, which eventually it seems to make you look worse, honestly. Maybe when you first get it, it's good, but and this again is not to judge anyone who chooses to do that with their life. That's another thing. If you are someone who feels like you want to have a surgery or have anything done, I'm not one to put any external shame on you for that. I just would love for all of us to get curious about why. Why is it bad to have wrinkles? And I also posted a couple of months ago a book review of Justine Bateman, who I love. She's an actress from the 80s too, that wound up being, she left acting and went more into filmmaking and things. And she's written a couple of books, which are really interesting. One is called Face, One Square Foot of Skin, which is funny because I never thought of it being like that. And it's on this topic of wrinkles are bad because she she's pretty wrinkly, and she saw the criticisms of herself online. She did some interview or something, and they were talking about like, oh, she didn't age well, and talking about her face and how wrinkled she was, and that she looked like this, and then they called her a drug addict and stuff, which she's not. And so this book is about smashing sexist ageism, which I love. And so I'm going to read this. Wrinkles and marks, hallmarks of complex and exotic women, women with confidence and attitude and style, women who had no use for whatever you might think of them. So that's when she was younger and she saw women that had marks on their face, or they were looked older, they had wrinkles, and she was excited to be one of these people because she thought of it as like, she's young and people think she's young and maybe think she's stupid or naive or whatever, and too innocent, and she didn't want to think that, she didn't want to feel that way, so she wanted to get wrinkles so people would be like, oh, this lady really lived. Right. So it's an interesting perspective on that. And yeah, the book was really interesting. I would suggest anyone read it. It's fictional. It's lots of little different stories, but it's interesting because it was showing me all the different ways, and she has a Hollywood background. So all the different ways, especially in that realm, where women are judged and kind of forced against our will, I feel, to feel like there's something wrong with our faces, and wrong with it getting older, and wrong with your body changing. And who decided this? Who decided the best way to get older? I don't know, Hollywood. Or that getting older is wrong or bad, I keep reading, I think because on my Facebook, the more I look at things, the more things start to get towards your interests, right? And so I keep saying things about, you should be lucky that you're old because, people don't make it old. And so if you're old enough to like have it look like your body, your face has been out in the world, it's because you made it older, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't love my wrinkles. I started to get this little wrinkle from squinting in the Peruvian sun all the time, but they're a map of my life. I've said this before, it means I cried. It means I was pissed at my partner, but it also means I was happy. It means I live in Peru and it's so dry here that your face feels like it's going to crack off sometimes, but I smiled in the sun. I gardened in my farm, and I don't want to be 20. I didn't know the things that I know now. Yeah. And I don't want to change my face in any way to make it look like I didn't get to this age. Yeah. And that's my view inside of me. So the question is, how can we validate ourselves instead of looking for this external validation somewhere outside? And perhaps this validation that we're looking for of like, oh, we look good. Oh, we look younger, maybe it comes from a place that we don't even resonate with or agree with. Like, and this doesn't have to just be about your looks, it could be like, for instance, about money, maybe your parents have some sort of, or whoever is in your outside world has this idea of like, you're going to work so hard and it sucks and your job is awful. And you don't feel that way. You feel like your job you would love your job to bring you joy, and maybe you help people, and maybe you also make a ton of money, and you believe that that's totally possible. But if you're listening to this outside idea, you're going to get confused on your mission, right? And so really separating yourself of like, do I believe that or don't I believe that? And what do I believe and what do I value? And so how do we turn off this external chatter that's made its way inside, right? So first, the topic of recognizing what isn't yours. I'll go back to the theme of women, right? So looking at older women, for instance, that you admire, and seeing why. Like, do you admire them for a wrinkle-free face? Probably not. I mean, I don't. So, or maybe it's because she has a confidence and owns every part of her being as herself. I always use Betty White as an example because I love her, love her, love her. Rest her soul. But she, until she was 99, she was sassy. She was, she had a twinkle in her eye. She was always making a joke that was maybe naughty. I loved her. And like, when you look at her, she was really wrinkled. I mean, she was 99, but for me, it didn't look like she lost that youthful glow because it's in her eye. It's in the way she acts. And not in a complete, I mean, I don't know if she got any sort of plastic surgery or anything. I don't know enough about her about that, but it was about the way she looked at the world and the way she was and the way she talked to people. And that's what made her impressive to me. And so that's what I want to cultivate. And I want to get rid of this, like, you can't get old. That doesn't even make any sense, right? So after that, after recognizing what isn't yours, I would say cultivating self-worth, contentment with yourself and your choices, own your choices, make independent choices that you don't ask around to everyone. I had that habit. I still do it sometimes, but excuse me, when you're feeling doubtful, or maybe you're feeling this outside shame creeping in, and as a currently recovering people pleaser myself, this, you're like, oh, is that okay? And so you kind of ask around like, hey, I was thinking about doing this thing. What do you think? And like, no, let's stop doing that. I mean, it's fine to ask your friends for advice, but really make the decision and own it. And too bad people don't like it. And then, cultivating gratitude. I have a gratitude journal, cultivating gratitude for what I have and what I've accomplished and what my life is like, and not having to do with my looks. Yeah. For my experiences, I'm grateful for all the things that I've done. And finally, I'm going to harness my inner New Jersey here. But this is something that keeps coming up. And I asked, actually, when I had just the menopause group, I was asking around about, because the moment that you stop having your period forever is menopause. Everything after that is post-menopause, and everything before that is pre or perimenopause. It doesn't make any sense for me to create our whole lives around these words that really focus on one moment in time. And I said, I refuse to live my life, the rest of my life, post-menopause. It sounds awful. So I asked around, and one suggestion was no fucks left to give time, which I love. But this, and you could say it in whatever, I apologize for my potty mouth. It's just how I am. You have to love it if you love me. So yeah, this no fucks left to give time, or no fucks to give, not in a way where you don't give a shit about anyone, not in that way, but stopping to care what other people think, in the sense of how that affects how you live your life. Obviously I care about people. But say when I was in my 20s, I cared more about what people thought about how I looked or what I did or whatever. And I'm thankfully reaching the point of I don't care what other people think as much, and I hope to harness more of that, because I'm not quite there yet. I still care a little bit, and like I said, not in a way where you don't care about other people. You care about what they do. You value your opinion of your friends and family, maybe. But when it comes down to it, you're the artist of your life. You're the only one ultimately living your life, even though you have to interact with other people in it. You're the authority of your life. You're the one that has to live it. You're the one that has to have the repercussions of how you live it, and what you do to your face and what you think. And so I think really harnessing this of I don't give a shit what other people think as far as how I live my life, and really embracing that. And when I see an older woman who very obviously is dressing how she wants, going where she wants. Now, I'm not saying no relationships, because obviously if you're married and you want to stay with that person, you need to have a little bit of compromise, but like overall, I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to do it this way. And this is what makes me feel good, and honoring what makes you feel good, not hurting others people's feelings, but honoring what makes you feel good in how you live your life, and just doing that. And so that is my wish for all of us, manifesting that for all of us, that we can get out of this, what's other people's thoughts, and really only focus on what we value, what we think, and how we want to live our lives. So let's go do that. I'm going to go try and avoid Peruvian Independence Day fireworks. And I'm going to go plant a bunch of flowers at my little farm. And that's what I want to do with my life for today. So don't forget to subscribe on my YouTube channel to be able to watch these at any time. And I'd love to hear your comments. Thank you.